What is made possible by your business existing? An intentional, reflective question for you today. Thank you for joining us. And I'd invite you to just consider that for a little, because we very often get stuck in the day to day, the busyness, the responsiveness, the doing in our business. But actually, it's nice and helpful to remind ourselves of what our business and what our time and energy actually creates in the world. I'm Suzy Sanders. I'm your ever curious host and the founder of Alchemy Virtual Assistants. And I have a very treasured guest with us today. I've got Kathy Soulsby, who is a formidable female entrepreneur. She's the founder of a virtual assistant business. And you could say, hang on a minute, Suzy, are you inviting a competitor along to chat? And yes, you could say that. But actually, I don't believe in competition. And I'm very fond of Kathy. We share a love of animals, coffee, and throwing ourselves in cold water as exercise. So, Kathy, thank you for making the space for this conversation here today. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you so much for inviting me on, Suzy. I'm excited to talk about
Oh,
this today.
good, so am I. And we were just chatting before. I always get a little bit nervous when I have experienced podcast hosts as my guests because I feel like I have to do an extra good job. So you wear a lot of hats, Kathy, is an understatement. And I know you, like me, spent many years as an executive assistant. You've written books, you have your virtual assistant business. What else makes you you?
Oh, well, we talked about love of animals. So I live with two border collies, Meg and Mabel. They're getting on a bit now, but in their younger days, they would do flyball and agility. So we used to do a lot of that. They and I have all scaled back on that recently due to dodgy hips in both quarters. Um, love reading. I love throwing myself into cold rivers, as we talked about, or sea. I'm a long way from the sea. If I was closer, I'd dunk myself in it more often. But I do have a cold water barrel in my back garden, an old whiskey barrel that I plonk myself in of a morning when I
Nice.
can't get to a river. So yeah, I don't know. Does that make me me? Jumping in a barrel, it makes me insane. I don't know about me.
No, I don't think that makes you anything less than sane and sensible, Kathy. And for regular listeners, and I know this is your first time with us here today, Kathy, but we always like to crack into a big question. And I'm
Mm.
really curious to explore this with you as we are in the same space and our businesses operate in similar ways. What, in your opinion, is made possible by virtual assistants, by your business, by my business? What do we allow for the world?
Well, and I came upon this. I gave it some pondering a couple of weeks ago. I tackle this in two different ways. So I came at it from the point of view of a business owner, so a client or a prospective client. What do we make possible? And then also for us as virtual assistants, what does doing our role allow the possibilities for us as people, as workers? So from a client point of view, I would say that virtual support allows small businesses to punch above their weight. So as a small business, if you want to employ somebody, you're limited to what you can afford. So the chances of you being able to afford an EA who might have a salary bracket of sort of 80, 90K, it's just not going to happen, right? If you're a small business, you can't afford that. But you could afford a fractional bit of that by having a really skilled VA who has that background. So for me, that's really fabulous because you can buy a small amount of a fabulous talent without having to commit to a huge whopping employment package. So I think it's getting that specialism as well. So businesses can get a specialism that they wouldn't be able to afford to employ, but they can buy enough of it that it really moves the needle on what they're able to achieve as a small business. So for me, that was one. It's like punching above your weight, accessing that expertise without the weight of employment. And it kind of closes that gap for me between ambition and infrastructure, right? So small businesses can be really ambitious. There are a hell of a lot of businesses out there doing amazing stuff with huge goals to hit, and they can be constrained by what they're able to buy. But this kind of, for me, means that they can access amazing support in a really cost-effective way for them. I think also virtual support lowers the barrier to, sort of psychologically lowers the barrier to delegation. I think it's a humongous commitment for businesses to employ an assistant. I think there's a cost factor, is there enough work factor. One of the many conversations I have, and I'm sure you do too, with prospective clients, is that they will not really understand or know what it is they can delegate to somebody else. And either they will download their brain and they will literally have a list of 1,000 tasks, and you kind of go, yeah, one person's probably not going to be able to do all of that, either in a time or a capability, way. You're not going to get an expert in one package who can build you a website and sort out your diary and build your Canva thing. Most people aren't experts at everything. But also you get the other end of the scale. People are, I'm so busy, I've got so much to do, I'm drowning, I need 50 hours a month of support. And you look through the list and you go, that's like 15 hours if you're lucky on a good day. So people don't have an understanding really until they talk to us and start working of what the art of the possible is. So when I was writing my book, I literally take people through a plan of, right, okay, write down as you're doing it what you do. Should you be doing it? Could somebody else do it? To try and build a realistic picture of what could be delegated. And I think that being able to take somebody on who is freelance, who is flexible, makes delegating much less terrifying for people in a way. I mean, some might say, well, because they're outsourced, we are more of a risk. Personally, I think it's less of a risk than employing somebody and then all of a sudden discovering you don't have enough work to give them, right? And you're paying them regardless. I think that's massive.
Yeah.
So there's some of the things I was thinking about from a client perspective of what the role we do makes possible. And I think it's a massive shift for businesses when they decide that they can get some support on board. But for us, as what we do, this is for me the really interesting bit, right? I love our clients, don't get me wrong, and I think we do a brilliant shit hot job for them most of the time. But for us as people, being a virtual assistant, the model gives us the control back, right? And we get to work so we get control over our time. We can, choose when and how we work. We control our income. We can price based on value. We're not trapped in salary bands. We can, name our prices. The whole pretty woman, we say who, we say how, we say how much, that kind of thing. And we can design our workloads around our life, whatever that looks like. And it will flex with our lives, right? You can, whatever that might be. A lot of people become virtual assistants because they have children and they can't face schlepping into the city 5 days a week anymore. That's not my story at all. But, I very much enjoy going and getting my nails done on a Monday morning, and that's fine, right? So everyone has their own reasons. I know other people who are sheep farmers and virtual assistants, or people who are yoga teachers and virtual assistants. That flexibility to build your life into what you want, I think, is amazing. For me, being an assistant, I loved it. I still love it. But as a career, it can be quite tricky because it's not a natural career path for everybody by any stretch. Once you get to a certain level, you might choose to move up to be a chief of staff, but there aren't that many of those around, and it's a very different role. Absolutely might not be for every EA. It's not a distinct progression, like perhaps going from being an admin person to moving to be a PA might seem like a natural progression. Chief of staff is not that, right? And you might have to just keep moving businesses to get bigger roles, to perhaps manage a team of EAs. It's not an obvious way to progress, but being a VA, you can work at the level you want, irrespective of your job title, and you can pick. If you have an amazing eye for design, and you're a real visual person, which is not me in any stretch of the imagination, right? You can become a Canva goddess, and you can you can pick the bits of work you really love doing, and you can find more of that, and you can find less of the stuff you don't like doing, minute taking or whatever it may be that is kind of in your old PA job was like, well, it's part of the job, you've just got to suck it up and do it, because that's how jobs typically work. In your VA career, you choose, and you find the bits that you're passionate about, and you get to use those. So that, for me, I think, as a career, is great. You also have the option, as you and I have done, to build a business that's bigger than just yourself, whatever that looks like. You've obviously got your model, I've got mine, they're very different, but it's, again, a career progression in that, I now manage most of the time, either manage or write content. That apparently is my job these days, sales.
Yeah.
But again, you can choose to do that, or you can choose not to. And you can literally work around, if you've got a busy family or a busy life, or you're studying or whatever, you can pick your role to match your life and then change it down the line. You have control of when you change it and why you change it. So that, for me, is the thing. And I think as well, it's sustainable, right? You have control over your life. Therefore, I'm not going to say you're not going to burn out. God, I know loads of VAs and business owners that have, but you do have slightly more control, I would say, over your life and your flexibility and the ability to either scale or just stay as just you, depending on your preference. So I think as well, we're not trapped. When you're in a job, you pick your industry, or you pick your, right, okay, I'm a board EA, or I'm a small business EA, or in my case, I was a small business EA and picked up all sorts of random tasks, from cleaning the fish tank to going to Switzerland on a client thing, right? Everything. But when you're a VA, you can either choose an industry that you're passionate about, or you can, if you love variety, you can, work with a day nursery one day and a pharma company the next day. You can switch it up depending on what your personality is like and what you enjoy, right? So I think it's almost like building a portfolio, isn't it? Like a bit like, your NEDs, when they retire, you get a lot more selective about what you're interested in, and you work around that. So for me, that's what's brilliant about being a VA. Does that kind of describe it?
Oh, so eloquently, Kathy. And there were so many key points there. I'm still got lots buzzing around my brain what you were sharing about from a client perspective as well. And I wholeheartedly agree that that choice and that control as an individual is, for me, it's priceless. It's
Yeah.
priceless. And in the interest of being balanced, you mentioned burnout then, and I kind of chuckled to myself because I've burnt out many times in the 10 years that I've been building my business. But what are some of the drawbacks, do you think, just from as being a VA? What are some of the more tricky bits from your perspective?
Oh, well, I mean, there are lots. Okay, I talk to a lot, and I know you do as well, because we've talked about this. I talk to a lot of people who are thinking about being a VA. My first book was on the back of what felt like a million of these conversations. Oh, I want to be a VA. What's it about? How does it work? And I literally went, I'm just going to write a book about it, because I can't answer everybody's questions in half an hour. This is ridiculous. So I've written a book, and then I talk to people. But for me, I think what people don't realize, and I count myself in this. I was home based as a PA, and I had two bosses. It was sort of organized together. It was a weird kind of hybrid role, but I worked at home for two different, sometimes quite conflicting employers, who obviously knew about each other. I was all organized above board together, but one day one would need something, and then the other one would also need something at the same time. So I was probably as close to being a VA as you can be whilst being employed. But oh my God, it was, the reality bore no resemblance to that. I mean, the main thing, right? If you're not working, you're not earning. That was the big one for me when I first started, because if you're not on the clock and billing, you're not earning any money. And I had, I think I was probably a year in, and I slipped a disc, and I couldn't work, or I was trying to work from bed. right? I was literally lying in bed with my laptop on this funny sort of stand that's designed to lie down, and I was taking drugs. And when the drugs kicked in at the right moment, I'm like, right, clock on, work for half an hour and clock off. And because otherwise I wasn't earning any income and I was letting my clients down. And that, taking holidays. God, when I was employed, I had 6 weeks paid holiday, right? For the first, well, even now I'm a bit shoddy on holidays, but since I've been self-employed, I have had one holiday a year, I think, and maybe the odd long weekend. And for the first 3 years, I don't think I had a holiday at all. So, because you're not getting paid, and this sort of paranoia, even a bank holiday used to, my model is very different now, but even a bank holiday, like, oh my God, I can't get my billable hours done this week because there's only 4 days instead of 5. How am I going to make it happen? So, yeah, that whole, if you're not working, you're not earning, pretty grim. The loneliness for me, not having anyone to talk to apart from your clients who possibly they're what you need to talk about. And I found virtual networks super helpful for that, Facebook groups, that kind of thing, just brainstorming. And I was really lucky when I started. I did associate work for a couple of very experienced lead VAs, and they were very happy for me to pick up the phone and go, I've got a really stupid question. What? But yeah, it's being on your own, and it is you, yourself, and I. If the laptop breaks, I mean, hopefully you've got some IT support, right? But if you haven't, not only are you trying to fix your laptop, but you're not earning any money while it's broken, and your clients are waiting for you to do the thing, right? And after that happened to me the first time, I now always have 2 laptops because the stress levels. It was my dog, actually, bless her. She wasn't quite a puppy at the time, but she was kind of a dick, and she literally bowled my laptop off the desk and onto the floor and ruined the hard drive. And I had no laptop, and I'm on the phone to the IT company. And of course, I had an IT company, but they still, they can't miraculously fix something in 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I always now have 2 laptops as a minimum
Yeah,
because stress levels, right?
definitely. I have 3. Because
Yeah,
I
I don't
really
have
don't
3. I
know
think I'm
what.
only on 2 at the moment. I'm on 2 and an iPad that will just about pass muster if I absolutely had to. But yeah, so I think it's the loneliness factor of they're not, the buck stops with you, right? You have to make the decision. If you're going to fire a client because they're horrible and you hate them and your life is miserable, it is your decision to make. And whilst that could be and is an absolute positive, right? You don't have to work with anyone you want to work with. Making that decision and then doing it is absolutely terrifying the first time you do it. And it's on you to do it. There's no boss to call to say, should I do this? Could you help me with it? It's you.
Mm.
You, yourself, and you.
Yeah,
So yeah.
it's an incredibly empowering but vulnerable place
Yeah.
to be, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I agree with what you've shared there. I mean, that's one of those challenges that I face, and I know, like you, I wrote a book because
Yes.
I was getting all the questions,
Yeah.
and it was getting, it was getting too much, but I spent a lot of time mentoring other VAs as well, and all of the loneliness, the responsibility, the pressure, the actual, being able to sell yourself and being the sales team, that's a huge thing. Would you agree?
I would. And I tend to forget about that because somewhat accidentally, and I'm not very good at blowing my own trumpet, but I have always found that way more enjoyable than I thought I would.
Me too.
Which
Me
I was
too.
startled about. I am not one of life's natural, Del Boy. God, buy it, sell it, sell. That is not my personality at all.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel a bit cringe. You say, "Oh, I'm going to go do some sales," but actually, what I have found is I have my own way of
Mm.
being out there and selling, but it doesn't freak me out. And I think I'm really lucky. And I had no idea that that was the case, right? But a lot of people do set up as VAs and then all of a sudden go, "Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
I've got to find the work." I
Yeah.
sort of thought I'd put a website up and then people would email me and it would happen. I'm like, it really
It
work
doesn't
like that.
work that way. Like you, Kathy, I had never in my career had any sales experience,
Yeah.
any formal sales training, but actually, I I argue that's what makes me good, because I'm not that Del Boy, and I'm not selling
Yes.
for the sake of selling. I'm
Yes.
doing it with integrity,
Yes.
and I actually love that business
Yeah.
development part, speaking to people, finding out about their businesses and their challenges, and I
Yeah.
really, really relish and enjoy that. But I never thought that I would. And then that, I
No.
think, is one of the blessings. I know I've learned
Yeah. I
so much about myself.
yeah.
Um,
I hadn't thought about that at all, actually. And until you just said it, I kind of went, oh, yeah, it sort of comes quite easily to me.
mm,
I say easily, I have some fairly big corporate clients, and I will sweat out of my hairline when I have a big meeting with them, or I have to negotiate prices with them. Literally, my blood pressure will be through the roof. Um, I'm absolutely not blasé about it. But weirdly, with new clients or prospective clients, I think because my theory has always been we only work with clients that we are right for. And fairly often I will have a conversation with somebody and say, you're lovely, but you're not right for us. Can I introduce you to X? Or I think you'd be a better fit for Y. And I will sometimes even help them find somebody. If we're not right, I will say, we're not right for you. Look, I've got a really good VA network. I'm pretty sure someone out there, I'm not going to recruit for you, but I'm more than happy to put a few thoughts together, bung it out there, and send you over some email addresses, because we're not right for you. We tend to work with corporates. We're VAT registered, so we're expensive for a tiny business. Like a dog walker gets in touch with us. I'm like, I love that. I love dogs. Are we the right business for you? God, no, we're absolutely not. Right. But there are absolutely people out there who would be perfect. So why not get the client the right resource and
yeah.
get the VA who's looking for the right kind of work? That just seems logical to me, to be
Oh,
honest.
wholeheartedly agree. And I've always operated from that space as
Yeah.
well. It's about doing the right thing,
Yeah.
not necessarily the easy thing. Because we've all been there. We've all taken a client on that didn't work out the way that we wanted it to, and it just makes sense to have that integrity to say, no, this isn't right, but this is.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
it's so, so important. And just taking us back, like, to those challenges, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I shaped Alchemy VA to be the way it was. I looked at all the challenges, all the pitfalls, and then went, how can I make a difference to that, so we can make
Yeah.
more impact to other people? And we're kindred spirits, Kathy, in the way
We
that
are.
we operate and the way that we are. And I'd just like to lead us back to actually what we do for our clients, what VAs enable for their clients, because you, right at the start of this conversation, packing a punch, moving the
Yeah.
needle, like the impact it makes. And I just wanted to come back to what you said. To me, is an absolute no-brainer for a small business to be able to get that really, really skilled, tailored talent at a fractional capacity. Really does change the
Yeah.
game. And that delegation piece as well, because a lot, particularly smaller businesses, solo entrepreneurs, they start businesses because they're good at what they do. And then all of a sudden, they're wearing all the hats, they're doing all the things, resources are tight, creativity's high, because you have to just keep going, don't you?
Yeah.
But knowing how to delegate, having the skills, the confidence, the know-how to be able to delegate to someone, whether it be a virtual capacity or not, would you argue that's a tough ask for some businesses?
I think for some businesses, yeah. I think it's a personal preference. I was talking to a potential client this week actually, and he was very proud that his business was now at a point where he delegates all the client work to his team. And he said, and it took a lot of mental and emotional work to be able to do that. And it is right. You have a
Mhm.
team. You know what it's like. You the intrinsic thing is to do it yourself because it will be better, it will be quicker. And you have to step back and know that for a period of time, it's going to take longer for you and the other person. And it's going to feel messy and uncomfortable. And you just have to work through that tipping point to then get the benefits. And I think I'm generally pretty honest when I talk to clients, and certainly I have a bit in the book about this is going to feel worse before it feels better. You know, if you're drowning, you have to accept that when you bring on another resource, you're going to drown a bit harder for a
Yeah.
while, because not only are you continuing to drown with your own stuff, you're going to have to show somebody else how to do this, and you're going to have to invest time in them, showing them how you want things done, explaining how your business works, explaining how your life works. So you're going to have a really miserable, probably, few
Yeah.
weeks while this happens. There's no way
Yeah.
about it, right? It's going to be a bit crap for a couple of weeks, but
Yeah.
then it's going to be amazing, because
Yeah.
all of a sudden you'll discover that you can pass things on, and somebody is going to say to you, why are you doing that? I should be doing that. Give that to me. And you'll discover that somebody else is perfectly capable of doing things as well as you. I mean, the guy I spoke to the other day, and this is what I say about my team, they do it better than me, right? My team are almost
Yeah.
all better diary
Yeah.
managers than I am, right?
Yep.
There are some things I am brilliant at. I'm brilliant at diary management, but they are absolutely amazing, right? So why wouldn't you have one of them instead of me? I would say. Yeah, I think it's about finding the right people, and it does
Yeah.
take time. It takes trust. It
Yeah.
takes. Uh, there are always going to be some people who are terrible at delegating, and we can't help them. They need therapy, a coach, smack round the head with a frying pan. I don't know, but some people are never going to be able to delegate. They're just not built that way, and that's fine as long as they are self-aware enough to recognize that weirdly every time I try and give something to someone it goes really badly, and you go, oh, does that happen for 20 years? Really? Is that them thing, or is that a you thing? What do you
Yeah.
reckon?
What's the pattern here?
Yeah, who's in the middle of all of that? So it's pretty rare. I generally those people don't look for help.
Yeah.
But you
And
get the odd one.
you're right. It's a human thing, isn't it? It's a very personal thing. And I think there's so much mess. I'm really glad you brought up that messy bit of drowning, because it's so important that actually it gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you're stressed and you're drowning to look beyond what you're sitting in. But what you were saying earlier about the tasks, I need 50 hours and I've got all of this and I don't know where to start. And actually the practical burden of a lot of things sometimes can be very mismatched with the mental burden as well. That's one of the things I've observed, like you were saying about diary management, realizing that someone actually might be able to do it better and quicker and more efficient than you. Like sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow, isn't it?
Oh, I now have someone who manages my own diary, which is mortifying. I am a diary manager. It is I am not only a diary manager. I have a whole podcast about being productive and time blocking and all that stuff. But I realized that my diary was falling to the bottom of my priority list, which meant it was shoddy. So having somebody else do it, which is exactly what we do to our clients, and she pushes me and she goes, you don't have enough days in London networking. We should make sure that you've got a couple of months. And, when we next catch up, I'm going to have found some events you can attend. I won't do that stuff for myself. It'll be on a list, but it will always fall to the bottom of the list because there'll always be something more important. So having it was somewhat of a journey. It still is somewhat of a journey, I have to say. And we do it together, right? Because my diary is not hugely busy with meetings, particularly. I mean, I do have quite a big team and the team meetings seem to ramp up, but I will manage my deep work slots where I get work done, if that makes sense. And we will discuss, right, what is my ideal week? How is this going to work? Right, I need this much time to get this work done. So meetings need to go into these spots or these spots, or if it's a prospect meeting or a client meeting, then fine, crash over that bit and crash over that bit, but don't crash over that for an internal catch up. So, we just have those discussions. But it was really hard when I literally sat down with myself and went, I need somebody else to manage my diary. I'm doing a poor job of this.
Practicing what you preach there, Kathy.
Really was.
Yeah, definitely. I love that.
But we all go through it, right? I mean, stupid
yeah.
things. I used to, in my business, I used to do everything. I used to do the money. I used to do the ops. I used to do everything. And then my first bit of outsourcing actually was a cleaner, because I realized that the hourly rate I would pay a cleaner, I could earn myself in less time. So I was like, well, instead of doing a Saturday morning cleaning the house, I could actually work that, pay for a cleaner in half the time. So yeah, that was my first bit. But then, I handed over my sort of invoicing side of things. And the lady who does my money, she very gently said to me, please, can you not reconcile stuff in Xero? Because you're doing it wrong. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Sorry. But it was, I'd open it up and I'd be like, oh, tick, tick, tick. And it's like, no, you literally have to just not touch it, right? Just, if you're delegating it, don't meddle. Just, and,
Kathy,
my
I'm
team are great
laughing
and they will
because
tell me this. They'll be like, stop doing that.
stop.
Okay,
I'm
fine.
laughing because I'm exactly the same.
I love matching stuff in Xero. I can't help it.
I'm not allowed in Zero anymore because it's just like what. And actually, that gives me so much joy because I'm not good at that. I don't enjoy it, and I was messing it up. So why? Oh, oh, Kathy, I am going to cut us here because
Yes.
we could talk in depth all day. I know that. And I'm going to
We
bring
have.
this. I'm going to bring this episode down to a close, and we will make sure that we've got links to your book. I know you're very active on LinkedIn and your
I
podcast as
am.
well. So
Yeah.
if anyone's listening going, I need Kathy, what's the best way to reach you?
LinkedIn is usually a pretty good way of finding me, to be honest. Whether you're a VA or a prospective client who just wants to talk about, is a VA right for me? Is it not?
Mm.
I don't know. I love those conversations, and I'm always happy to have them to go nowhere. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? I'm interested in the
definitely.
conversation. I'm interested in hearing about people's businesses
Yeah.
and noodling through, oh, what do you need? On the other week, oh, I don't know if I need an EA, a chief of staff, a VA. And I'm like, great,
Mm.
hit me with it. What is it? Let's
Yeah.
talk through it. Because any of those things, if it's not us, I know people who recruit EAs, I know people who recruit chiefs of staffs, I can help you noodle through your thoughts, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Having been in the
Definitely.
industry for quite a long time, quite a long time. Very young, very young, very young.
Kathy, thank you so much. It's been a joy, and I'm really grateful to you for being here, witnessing this conversation unfold in all of its tangents and glory. And I would just invite you again to just take a little moment and have a ponder about what you make possible for others.